Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Julia XO. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about not lowering your expectations. In other words, not settling. So many people settle, and I'm gonna tell you this, it aggravates me so much to see people settle. I know that usually when people settle, something happened to them and something like that. And now there's like this belief that they have to settle or that whatever they're settling for is all they can get is now rooted into them. You can have whatever it is that you desire, and once you figure that out, once you learn that you can have whatever it is that you truly align with what your most authentic self wants, when you learn that you can get whatever that is, I feel like your life elevates so much. I think this is a concept that I've talked about in so many of my episodes, which is going after whatever it is that you want, not settling. I think I've spoken about it at least 3 times. Um, and that's not what the whole episodes were about. But anyway, no, so I've spoken about this a few times, and it's just it's a really important lesson to learn because when you live life as your most authentic self, you experience the most joy. Not that you need to have any external circumstances in your life or even internal circumstances for you to find joy in your life, because I'm going to tell you now, when you find joy in your life, even in your lowest points in life, joy will continue to follow you. Something that I say in so many episodes is there's been research done, and yes, it's true. There has been research done on this topic right here, that I'm about to tell you, and it's that when people are joyful, usually so many more exciting experiences follow. So that's just something to think about. Do you want to live in alignment or not? Do you want to live in a world of joy or no? So let's go ahead and get into the episode, you guys. The first thing to help you not lower your expectations is to get a clear picture of what you want. If you don't really know what if you don't really know what you want, how will you uphold these standards? And you can want so many things. I mean, you could have expectations for a business that you own. You can have expectations when you're going out to eat. You can have expectations in a relationship, platonic or romantic. It really doesn't matter. You can have expectations in many areas of life. I've been seeing a lot of videos and whatnot talking down on having expectations, but I think expectations, true, authentic expectations, can be such a beautiful thing. And I'm definitely being heavy on the authentic part because you can have, desires and expectations, but it's not coming from a place of being healed. And I know that if you're not healed, you might be thinking, okay, well, like, isn't that person's most authentic self? I wouldn't say it's their most authentic self because when people are being healed, when people are not healed, usually they're acting from a place of wound. They're not, well, not usually, it's like all the time. When they do certain things that may seem toxic or just like unhealed behavior, they're acting from a place of being wounded, not a place from authenticity. If someone gets really angry at the fact that the judges at the talent show they're at gives them, 1 out of 5 stars, each judge gives them one, they're all holding up a one on the board or whatever, and they get so angry at that, and they just like start fuming on stage, start yelling and whatnot. This probably isn't coming from a place of authenticity, but rather a wound from their childhood, and let's just say that that wound is their parents not seeing them, their parents not hearing them, and so now they just really want to be seen, and them not being picked by the judges reopened that wound for them. So that's what I mean when I say it's not coming from a place of, or to come from a place of authenticity. So again, get clear on what you want. And how can you do that? Well, for starters, I feel like most of the time, pretty much all the time, we already know what we want, in our heart. I'm saying authentic because you might want something like a person, a partner that's not treating you right, but again, you're wanting them out of a place of wound. So, yeah. Um, anyway, get clear on what you want. Like I said, like I was saying, I feel like we pretty much already know what our most authentic self wants most of the time, but sometimes writing out what you want can help for realizing that you might not be operating or wanting, desiring from a place of authenticity, but rather, just wounds and structures and concepts that were built, you know, basically that were enforced maybe in your childhood or maybe even on social media, anything, and you just haven't realized that these ways doesn't have to be it for you, or these ways aren't the best ways. So yeah, like I said, most of the time you already know what you want. You go to a restaurant, you want it medium rare, but you wanted a medium rare steak, and then the waiter or waitress brings back a well done steak. Obviously, that's not what you want. You knew that wasn't what you wanted. And, you know, that's just one example of being clear on what you want. But for other scenarios, you might want to get married, and then in your head, you're like, okay, well, I'm good with this type of wife or husband, whatever. I'm good with this type of partner. I'm good with this type of spouse. But then you start writing out what type of spouse you'd want, and then you realize, wait, honestly, I don't want this thing anymore. I actually want this. Or you just, anything like that. So getting clear on what you want is definitely something that I strongly encourage others to do. But again, when it's something like the steak, I don't really think you have to write that down. However, I'm not you, so you can have whatever type of, everybody has different needs. And if you need to write down things that others may consider small to figure out what it is that you truly want, then, you know, that's that's just what you need to do, and so do it. Next thing, you guys, the next thing, let me tell you, never settle for anything less than what you want. You've gotten clear, you're clear on what you desire, you're clear on what your most authentic self desires. Now don't settle. So many people settle, and like I said in the beginning, it's just such an irritating thing for me to see because I know when people aren't living in the way they desire, or things in their life aren't necessarily what they want. That's not what they want. I just love to ask people who aren't in a place where they want to be, or have things or people in their life they don't truly desire. I love to ask them, what did their maybe teenage self want, or 5-year-old self want? What did that version of you desire? That version of you still exists in you, of course, but what does that version of you desire? What was that versions of you? What was their dreams and aspirations? Where did they see themselves now? And if your life really isn't designed with, I mean, it's different if you're just like your desires changed, but usually when people think back on what those versions of themselves wanted, they're just like, wow, what am I doing? Like, I really don't want whatever it is that I have right now. I don't want that person. I don't want that house, yada, yada, yada. I just don't want it. And I'm allowing myself to settle, which is something that you never want to do. Don't settle. Even if you get something that's close to what you desire, don't don't settle. If it's 98%, it's great in general, it's just not for you. That's not exactly what you want. Just because it's close to being what you desire doesn't mean it's fully what you desire. It doesn't mean it's what you desire. So even if you settle for something that's close to what you want, it's still settling at the end of the day. Something that a lot of people need to realize that they're letting their fear or their, lack of comfort that they feel when thinking about their goals, aspirations, whatever it is, they let that uncomfortability keep them from going after what they want. You have to make that decision for yourself on if that uncomfortability, that momentary uncomfortability, if that outweighs the forever disappointment from not going after what it is that you desire. Just because you fear what could happen, what you think could happen, doesn't mean you should let it decide what you're going to do. If you wanted to skydive, you just feel like it'll be such a freeing moment for you, but you're so extremely terrified of something going horribly wrong that you don't allow yourself to experience it. I feel like it's just it's such a disappointing thing. And to allow yourself the future, your life is always in your hands. So to deprive yourself from what you deserve, from what you desire, it's not it's not the move, guys. It's not the move. And if it's something that, makes you uncomfortable, if you've had certain habits for so long and now you are trying to change it, but changing those habits, it's just like, okay, I'm not in my comfort zone, so I guess I'm not gonna change. You should never let that dictate your life. I mean, like, uncomfortability sucks, but so does not receiving whatever it is that you desire. If someone or something doesn't match what it is that you want, so be it. So be it. Do not allow yourself to settle for less than you deserve just because you feel like that's all you can get, or you feel like, okay, close enough. At the end of the day, the opportunity will come around, and I can explain why you are literally bound for it to come around to you. Exactly, whatever it is that you want, it's like bound for you to get it. I can explain this in a scientific way. I can explain this in a spiritual way. I can explain this in a religious way because all roads lead back to Rome. Every single thing will tell you that, you can get whatever it is that you desire. You can get whatever it is. Just remember that I'm speaking for things that ain't, you know, your highest good, things that are aligning with your most authentic self. Because if it's something like, okay, I'm gonna like I'm gonna accept this job opportunity where all the other employees and stuff and just all your coworkers and whatnot are bullying you, I don't feel like things in that matter will last. Even though I feel like you could get it at the end of the day, I just don't feel like it would last because it's not, it's not in alignment with your most authentic self. It's not in alignment with your highest self. And maybe those things will last, but these things are so out of alignment, so you won't even truly resonate with it. You won't even truly be reaping the benefits of it. I mean, maybe you're reaping the benefits, but you're not reaping any benefits of what you desire. But yeah, so and I'm gonna explain this why you can get every single thing you want in a scientific way. I don't even feel like, I mean, I feel like spirituality is scientific And I've researched a good bit of different belief systems and whatnot, yada yada yada. I feel like everything is really just saying the same thing in a different font most of the time. I don't agree with all concepts in certain beliefs. Some things I think are just pretty misogynistic and pretty controlling. But anyway, um, yeah, I feel like everything is so connected throughout all like science, spirituality, any like belief systems, anything like that. They're just all so connected, and I can find truth in every single. No, I'm not gonna say every single thing. I was in a point of time I was saying like I can find truth in every single type of religion, belief system, blah 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 blah. But then I saw certain belief systems, and I was like, whoa, this is very, very misogynistic. Very misogynistic. It's very controlling. And I'm just like, no, I don't stand for that. I don't sit for that either. But from a scientific aspect, we have, I'm just gonna say two laws in science that tells you that you can get whatever you want. So the first aspect we're gonna come from is your thoughts. In science, they essentially say, and they say this in Buddhism too, and in spirituality. Um, and it's even in all the belief systems, they just kind of say it in a different way, definitely in a different way. So science, it essentially says what your conscious mind thinks rewires your brain, and your subconscious mind will use all the information that you have ever gathered to see that those results come to fruition. So if you constantly think you're beautiful, and you don't think that, eventually you will begin to feel beautiful. Not only that, but you don't, your reality will be that you are beautiful. There'll be like no contradicting that. You are beautiful. If you continue to affirm to yourself that you're an optimistic person, and you don't contradict that thought or whatever, you will rewire your brain, and your subconscious will see to it that that begins to manifest. And there are a bunch of books on this. So, you know, yeah. I know a lot of people are very, very suspicious of this, but let me just tell you, if you have any type of desires and you go on social media, or you like look at a newspaper, read a book, or even talk to people in real life, or even online, those people that you speak to who have the life that you desire, I've never seen this fail. They'll always tell you to think in your favor. I mean, like, so many of them. If you, it's so, they always tell you to think in your favor. I've never seen it fail. Any type of motivational speaker, any type of person who is extremely wealthy or even a little bit wealthy, all these people, they tell you to think in your favor. I'm pretty sure you can pull up over 1 million videos of people telling you to think in your favor. When you think in your favor, you'll see favorable circumstances. The second thing that science talks about that backs up the fact that, you can get whatever you want is the fact that they say your actions, your frequencies, they reflect your life. I think your thoughts and your frequencies go hand in hand. I think it's much easier to go from thinking, like, think whatever you want, and then your actions will follow, rather than like just do the actions. That's just doing the actions is so crazy to me. I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like it has any type of fun to it. So yeah, the second thing is actions, and this applies to like, it's like two different things to this. So, number one, if you want to If you want to be happy in life, your actions will dictate that, is what science says. So, your actions, like doing the things that you love, going to the places that you love, being around people that you love, yada yada yada. Yeah, doing things that make you happy, doing little fun things that'll help you to be happy. It also, it talks about the fact that when you get in a place of, okay, I'm really, really happy, happiness will follow. And I mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast episode. I don't think that you always have to be happy for happiness to follow, which is why I say I think of it more from a thinking aspect rather than like, okay, like I gotta do certain things for things to come to fruition for me. Obviously, yes, but that's just not, I don't just approach it like, okay, act, 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 and this is gonna happen. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna say to myself, this is happening for me, yada yada yada, and then I'm going to, like, I'm just gonna subconsciously begin to do the things that will help me get wherever it is in life that I want, or attract the people in life that I want. But yeah, so it's like, okay, if you're happy, then happiness will follow, yada yada yada. If you, I was just saying that to go into more details about how you really can have the life it is that you desire, for sure, for sure. But yeah, no, just to reiterate, I definitely do think thoughts and actions go hand in hand. I approach it with so much more of a whimsy attitude and a cool. I think I'm like, I feel like when you think, when you approach it from a thoughts aspect, like, okay, I think this, and then the life I desire will just fall in, it'll go into place. It'll just go into place. My subconscious will ensure that it goes into place. No, I don't really have to like just think, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Just me thinking that you know, I have the lifestyle that I want, have the person that I want, like have the person that I want in my life already, thinking those things, thinking things like that. I think it's just so much better than being like, okay, freak, what the heck do I do to get this life that I desire? And okay, let me just put in actions for it, put in actions for it. Um, no, it's so boring. And I feel like I don't know, it's just not cool. Whatever, enough on that. Like I said, really, I was just bringing those up to again say you do not need to settle. You can get whatever it is that you desire. And oh my gosh, let me tell you guys this. So, another way I know to get things that you desire is to surround yourself with people who already have whatever it is that you desire. And when you surround yourself with these people, whether that be through watching videos or actually having these people in your life, not only will you begin to learn what you need to do to get there, but it'll push you to get there, and familiarizing yourself with that kind of lifestyle, those kind of people that you want to attract in your life, yada yada yada. It rewires your brain. It does. It rewires your brain. I've talked about this before in a podcast episode that environment is everything. And yeah, guys, no, like being in different environments can help to rewire your brain if you allow it. If you allow it, there could be people who kind of like grew up in a very down environment and then they switch to a loving environment, but they still stay in a very down way. And that's just not, it's typically they're they still have things to work on, yada yada, and they're not being open to the process of change. But for those that grew up in down environments and are now in loving environments, and they allow themselves to change the different, change their behaviors, blah 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 blah, change the different patterns, they reap so many benefits. They reap benefits in themselves, they reap external benefits, a lot of things. So yeah, environments can help to rewire your brain if you let it. A big thing with not lowering your expectations is to not allow for others' projections to keep you from the life that you deserve, okay? I've heard a lot of stories about others being told they couldn't do something, it just was too out of reach, and they stopped going for said thing. We can always reject suggestions. And I'm gonna tell you now, the people who are like, okay, you're incapable of doing this, you're incapable of doing that, real love doesn't exist, yada yada yada. When they're saying these things, it's because they don't think that they can have whatever it is that you're talking about. They don't think that they could achieve whatever it is that you're talking about. They're like, okay, I want to own a business and just have a lot of customers, yada yada. A lot of customers, a lot of loyal customers. They just love my product so much, and they're like, oh, what? You can never have that, and that's just like that's so far out of reach. People like you can't have that. That's their own insecurities talking. That's their own wounds talking, and they do not determine your reality. Even if you let their thought, let their own projections play a factor in your decisions, your actions, even if you let it be a factor, even if you let it get in your head, at the end of the day, they didn't control you, you control you. You decided to allow whatever they said to determine your reality. You allowed that. They can't allow it. They can't force you to do anything. You are the one that makes the decisions in your life. So, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all your choice. Nobody can control you. That's just the bottom line. Nobody controls you. You're the only one that controls you. So, again, even if somebody has gotten in your head and now you think you can't do that, that's because you allowed it. You chose to have this new type of mindset. You chose to have this type of mindset. Last but not least, alignment. Alignment feels good. And what I mean by this is alignment with the most authentic self, your most authentic self. That is such an amazing feeling, such an amazing experience. It's an amazing lifestyle. It's an amazing lifestyle to align yourself with your most authentic self. And when you're not being authentic, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant at all. So if you desire in life to move to New York, but in everybody in your hometown is telling you no 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 no, like no, that's just like why do you even want to do that? People like us, we don't do that. We stay in this town forever and forever. Yada yada yada. When you let things keep you from being your most authentic self, and in this scenario, the most authentic decision for them was to move to New York. To let anything just keep you from making choices in your most authentic life, it's never going to feel good. And maybe it feels safe, but sometimes you have to just allow yourself to do things despite the fear, despite any challenges that may or may not be there. You have to just allow yourself to go for things anyway. So that I think is like a big point, a big focus of today's episode is go for things despite the fear, go for things despite the uncomfortability. Just go for it. Live in alignment with your most authentic self. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Chili Eggs. So, I've been working on so many things with the podcast and just especially figuring out how exactly I want things to look for the next season. That's been a big thing. I love change in certain aspects so much. So when I get ready to transition into the next season of this podcast. I feel like that's gonna be, I know it's gonna be such an exciting thing, and I have definitely have big plans for the next season. It's been such a learning process starting this whole podcast, and no matter how many videos I can watch, how many seminars I can join, and just like listen to people talk about owning your own podcast, blah blah blah. I feel like nothing can really prepare you for it. I mean, it can prepare you for it, but I don't think really learn everything you need to learn until you jump into whatever it is that you want. This goes for everything. That's why I didn't say podcast. When you jump into whatever it is that you want, I feel like only then will you truly know what you need to know, because there's basic information and then there's like information catered around whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to be a football player and you're watching all these videos on general information on being a football player and then being a wide receiver, that's amazing. But when you get out on the field, you might have some mental blockages and stuff. And though you've watched videos on mental blockages, you're a different type of person than the type of scenarios they use in these videos. So now you have to figure out what works for you to clear those mental blockages. Affirmations aren't just doing it for you. You have to work through, you really do have to just like work through the emotions and like really just allow yourself to feel it. Then you can go and start looking at it from a different outlook. So the point of that scenario is just to say again, you can have as much information that you could possibly find on any type of subject, any type of thing you're wanting to dive into, but you'll never be 100% ready. Then when you jump into it and you allow yourself to make those mistakes, and I know for a lot of perfectionists, that's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna be like 100% ready, blah 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 blah, and like you can miss me with that, but I just think it's part of the process. We all have our own unique journeys. It doesn't matter if like there's 10,000 people who are all working in the same type of business. At the end of the day, everybody has their differences, and what works for one person just might not work for you. So, yeah, that's just another thing. Yeah, jump into whatever it is that you desire to do. Sometimes you cannot dip your foot in, you just have to dive in. You have to dive in. You have to dive in and allow yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are one of life's greatest opportunities. So they're not even like mistakes, really, just learning opportunities. Mistakes sound like such a harsh word. But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it, and do not forget to rate the podcast 5 stars.